Welcome to Coming Home, Survive and Thrive in Homeschooling. Last week we started a new series on the new homeschooling mum. This week it's part 2, or what to do next. We have about 4 questions to run through that Amanda expressed some concern about. But before we start part 2, can I please ask you to do something for me? Please like today's podcast, and if you haven't subscribed already, please do. The way YouTube and their algorithms function means that you listeners need to do a little work for us, and this gets the valued content out to more homeschoolers. Thank you very much. The first question that Amanda had for me was parenting concerns. Her little boy, who is not quite 2, has more of an extroverted personality, the kind of little boy who just arrives somewhere and wants to explore everything. Her daughter, on the other hand, who is 5.5, is more the observer, somewhat of an introvert and quite compliant. She has 2 varied personalities in her family. Well, we had 5 children and we had 5 varied personalities because that's the way children and families work. The specific parenting concern she had was behaviour in public. So she had been to it was a sporting function, and the little boy, and I must point out that nearly 2, I would categorise him as not much more than a baby on legs. So he wanted to run on the running track. I guess that's because what some of the children were doing, but of course that's dangerous and it's inappropriate because the other children can't run on the track. So she was getting him to come back off the track and told him that he couldn't do that. He immediately threw himself down onto the grass and threw a big tantrum. And she said she found it quite embarrassing. So I asked her what she did. She picks him up and takes him away and has a talk to him and explains how he can't do this and takes him back. Now, I think she did the right thing there. She took him away to talk to him. She didn't deal with it in front of everybody else. She also did something else that I thought was admirable, in that she didn't let him get away with disobeying her and bad behaviour, because it's really easy to let things like that happen when you're around other people. So, yay you, Amanda, you followed through on some good parenting strategy there. I understand that you felt embarrassed, but I've got a question for you. Do you really think that most of those parents there didn't recognise what was happening with your little boy, that some of their children hadn't done much the same thing? I think we just automatically feel that people are judging us or judging our parenting abilities or criticising what our children are doing. But I wanted to encourage Amanda that, first of all, I respected her parenting decisions in following up with her little boy, but also to encourage her that other families are going through exactly the same thing that she did. Something else that I would like to point out regarding this kind of thing, parenting concerns and behaviour in public, is that it's important to understand the parental authority you have versus being your child's friend. The latter seems to be a more modern, popular way of approaching parenthood, probably as an extreme reaction from earlier generations feeling that they were under parenting that was too authoritative. I think both of those are 2 extremes that are not good. You are the parent of your child. You are not the friend of your child. I would also like to point out that although I believe that the parent has authority over a child, that authority is done in a totally loving way, respecting the little person that he or she is. Because you need to take God as the perfect parent, who is our example of how to do parenting. So it's important to make your boundaries clear to your children, and they need to know what the consequences are of those boundaries also clearly. Children will test boundaries. It's the nature of what children do. They will usually test those boundaries at an inconvenient time, usually when there are other people around, as the example that we saw with Amanda's little boy. All normal. It's important that your child finds the boundary there that he or she was expecting, because if he is allowed to get away with a little bit more, what has happened with that boundary is that it has been extended to a new boundary, and it was the child that reset that boundary. Not a good thing. So I think to help balance that dysfunctional, authoritative or overly authoritative model of what a parent can do, you need to just bear in mind the loving parental authority God demonstrates towards us. He is slow to anger. He is swift to bless and to care for us. And I find great comfort in thinking about God in that way. Other parenting tips include: use a playpen at home if you need to. These fell out of favour quite a few years back because parents were accused of keeping their children in a cage just like an animal. Well, no. They have their place. Keeping him in can be really helpful while you concentrate for short periods of time with your daughter. Giving the little boy something to do where he is safe inside the playpen helps at two levels. You are restricting him in one place so that you don't have to worry about where is he, what's he doing, what's he into, and you can totally concentrate on what's happening with your daughter. It's a good idea to only have it for a short period of time because they could be used to have more containing authority, we'll say, than what could actually be necessary. The other thing that a playpen is really handy for is for when your daughter wants to play without being bothered by her little brother. We had that situation regularly with usually our eldest son, who was busy building blocks or a Lego tower, and his little brother, who all he wanted to do was just push it over. So our eldest boy used to get into the playpen to just play without being bothered. Question number 2 from Amanda is inconsistent napping from the not quite 2-year-old. Which I assumes is a problem because it results in inconsistent schooling for her daughter. So routine is important, but it can take time to teach, in this case the routine of a consistent nap. And being at home for most of your homeschooling day is a bonus to help introduce consistency in teaching a little one how to nap or rest. Is the inconsistent napping actually a problem? Does he get grouchy if he hasn't slept or is overtired? If it isn't a problem, you have flexibility options, but if it is, teaching a napping routine during the day is a priority. Even if he doesn't nap, I'm still a believer in toddlers having at least one sleep a day. You could spend a week or so concentrating on creating a napping routine, making that your priority in the day, and some of the input for bookwork for your daughter taking a slightly less priority while you are concentrating on the napping routine. I'm not recommending leaving him to cry unless that's your preferred option. It wasn't ours. But each family decides what is best. Please note that leaving a child to cry is not the same as allowing a period of grizzling or crying whilst you're doing something else. A child needs to learn he is not the centre of the universe, and you do not drop everything to go to him. Your child can learn to rest quietly if he doesn't sleep. If he's not going to sleep, give him something quiet to do in his cot and make it clear that this is for just a short period of time and you will come back to get him soon. But rest he must. In another year or so, he will move to an afternoon nap which will suit an after-lunch rest or a nap routine for you and your daughter. And incidentally, the rest after lunch is for you too. Concern number 3. Let's take the toddler and baby practicalities a bit further, since they do have to do with how your day goes. When we first came home, we had a toddler, and a new baby joined us 2 years later. For the toddler, he went down for a nap, and there was a transition time of him moving between needing 1.5 naps. I viewed these times as just life and used the time well when he was down. If he woke up early or was unwell or grizzly, then we changed tack, and I might have asked a child to do a puzzle or play a game with her sibling rather than struggling over getting a pre-assigned piece of reading or writing done that needed me there. When our baby arrived, we pulled back on some formal work and reassigned more reading and hands-on activities I wasn't needed so much for. Homeschooling friends would take our older 2 children to an activity or have them over to play. You can read to an older child whilst breastfeeding your baby or toddler. Your older child can play with, read to, and socialise with your baby or toddler. These are privilege a school child is denied. Think of the childcare skills your daughter will observe and absorb simply by being there and participating. You are blessing her future as a mother. The ups and downs of having a little one will not likely overwhelm her as those who have not had this experience, and I would like to think there will be less chance of postnatal depression when it's her turn to care for a wee one. The challenges of parenting will seem more normal to her. For those listening who have sons, get a clear vision of the wisdom and familiarity he will have when he is a father. He will know better the reality of a baby or young child in the house. Changing nappies, bathing, and playing with his child will be more natural to him. The realities of a tired mother and a basket of laundry needing to be folded will seem normal to him. Your future daughter-in-law will thank you. The point here is that a toddler or a new baby is part of life and therefore part of learning. At no stage did our children get behind or academically disadvantaged over this period of our life. They learned so much of real life. Keep your eye on your big picture or your why. On days when a curved ball is thrown or lasts weeks or months, this will reassure you. There are times of less bookwork and times of more. In the end, it balances out. Bear in mind that a school classroom has its fair share of unexpected events that disrupt the most well-prepared teacher. Question number 4 from Amanda. Should she buy a curriculum? No, not unless you have decided to use a boxed curriculum with books for everything, telling you what to do and when. Beyond that, I'm not in a position to suggest what to buy. We use the Charlotte Mason approach, which uses minimal exercise books and textbooks. This is my experience and expertise and how I will answer from today. You can buy a quad book with big squares for the few times that she will use it. She can practice writing a number each day. A written number is the representation of a quantity. Maths is what she sees and understands. The numbers to write help to record it, but it is not maths. In the early years, this is important to focus on. Maths is not boring. Numbers and sums on a page certainly can be. At some stage, she will learn how to write a sum, but for now, her practical maths is best done hands-on, using everyday items, blocks, pegs, or whatever you're working on around the house. Baking, gardening, laundry, and setting the table are all maths activities. Use them to teach. Puzzles, wooden blocks, Lego, constructor straws, etc. are all maths teaching tools, as is a pack of cards and many board games. Listen to my interview with Marcia, Mrs. Maths, for helpful and encouraging advice on teaching maths to your children. The podcast link for that will be in the description box. You will need to choose a literature book to read from every day. A suggestion is to start with Little House in the Big Woods by Laura Ingalls Wilder. It's history, literature, and a great teaching tool, all for easy reading from you. You can use it to have her practice oral narration and, when able, a little written narration. It can form the basis for an art project or dressing up in historical costume. There are many teaching tools in the story, such as comparing horse and cart with our modern transports. Get an exercise book for her that has one blank side per 2 pages. Glue the 2 blank pages and the 2 lined pages together if your child is a very early reader-writer. This will prevent tears and pressure from little hands that print or colour with fervour and would otherwise be seen on the next page or poke a hole in it. This book is for illustrations from reading, drawing something from a trip to the beach or park, or when she's inspired to write her first stories. Use it to practice her letter formation, or get another book for that. We'll go deeper on this when we talk more deeply about forming a curriculum. You will need a basic phonics reading series. She can practice writing 1 letter a day and learn to sound out them. Start with vowels, then go to consonants, then to E makes the vowel say its own name. Before you know it, you're on to blends and books with a wider vocabulary. There are plenty of recommended book lists from fellow Charlotte Mason followers and leaders. As I mentioned a little while ago, we will deal in detail with forming a basic curriculum soon. In the meantime, use the games and activities you already have. Your local homeschool group should have a good library. You'll get a better selection there than your local public library. Include your daughter in everyday household activities and see how much natural teaching there is, not only in the practical learning of skills, but in the simple and important maths involved. Use driving in the car as an opportunity to talk about what you see, teach numbers, or play an audiobook, or just chat. You'll be surprised what comes up from children of all ages when you're driving. If the weather is good, use the beach, park, or whatever good outdoor areas are in your area. Fresh air, observing plants, reading numbers on letterboxes or street signs. The possibilities of making the world as your classroom are vast. Take part in your homeschool group activities and sport. These are great for the children and also a chance for you to chat with other mums. A few hours out can be a real pick-me-up for everyone. Factor in time for meaningful inactivity. I have a podcast on this, and Charlotte Mason wrote on this important pillar of homeschool life. I'll put the link to that podcast below too. Tell me, Amanda, how long do you think it takes each day to teach your child? It takes around 1.5 hours per day in a school. So stop worrying about how much you're doing in a day. If you get the 3 R's done, you've done well. And the 3 R's are reading, writing and arithmetic or maths. Anything else you get done is a bonus. And these bonuses are actually more regular than you'd think. These comments on the curriculum are once over lightly. And as I mentioned above, there will be a more in-depth talk about it soon. Except that there will be tough days. Sickness, tiredness, and other things can disrupt. Take a deep breath and don't fight it. And don't think you have to catch up. You will, in a very natural manner. Life's like that. If you have family or friends who drop in because you're at home, you'll have to let them know you are busy just now and organise a time to see them. They will soon get the message that homeschooling is serious and a cup of tea and chat with them is secondary to your child's needs. On the other hand, if someone is in town you haven't seen for a while, or Great Auntie Jean is visiting, accept a visit and actively encourage your child to listen for a while or ask strategic questions about her childhood. And it might be a good idea to talk to Auntie Jean about that first. There's a difference between tone-deaf, presumptuous visitors and those who are important and can serve a practical part in your child's learning and appreciating their family history. Along these lines, to watch out for are those who assume you're available to help, babysit, or whatever because, well, you're at home. You are, but you have previous arrangements and commitments, and your diary is probably full that day. Homeschooling your child or children is your priority. That's what you signed up for. And that will do for today. That's plenty to think about. There will be more questions and concerns to come, and no doubt things to also celebrate. I hope this roundup has been encouraging to Amanda and anyone else who is new to homeschooling. Next time I'll include Amanda's question. How do I know my daughter's at her reading level? I don't want her to fail. Until then, relax, enjoy your week and your family, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.